I'm the fucking best. I'm the fucking best. I'm the best there ever was. Best there ever was. I'm the fucking boss. I'm the fucking boss. Heavyweights. I own those motherfuckers.
What's good, family? It's your man the YB, back once again. So we just heard there from your mans, Tyson. Fury, airing out all the bum dossers. All the bum dossers out there, like Mr. Anthony John Stewart and Alexander Jusic. Yeah, and now Eddie Hearn came through. Can't be asked to pull the video up. Eddie Hearn came through a little while ago and jumped on the bandwagon 24 hours ago and said, listen, Fury's knocking around the place right now because he knows AJ about to fight and Fury clout chasing. Listen, I don't care what you call it. And there, I thought, listen, we all know, let's call a spade here. Most of you man are thinking right now, YB, why are you even bothering to talk about this? Listen, there's nothing else to talk about. It's one of them ones. Yeah, I ain't gonna come on here in front with you, man. I could come on here and try and spin some story about how it needs to be talked about. This don't need to be talked about whatsoever. I'm desperate right now. I got bills to pay. End of the day, your man the YB got bills to pay, and that means videos must come out. Do you understand? Therefore, your man the YB gonna waffle right now for 10 more minutes. Waffling some more. Let's get to it then. Where are we gonna waffle on this subject? Well, you heard there from Mr. Tyson Fury. He tell you he the best. Eddie Hearn tell you he clout chasing. I'll tell you, listen. Let's spend the next 10 minutes debating how good Fury really is. Or better yet, I actually feel how great Fury's potential is. All depends on what happens going forward. I don't think when it comes to greatness, what Fury's done in the past isn't the question now. I don't know about, obviously the Fury Man fans will be doing this 24/7 no matter what. They'll be sucking greatness off the whole way. But me, I'm realistic. And I told you before, if Fury decides to stay and he knocks out AJ, he knocks out Usyk, he knocks out Joe Joyce, for example. If Fury went on to do them three things, I genuinely think there's an argument for a minimum top 3 all time. If he was, you know what I'm saying, if he was to knock out Usyk, knock out AJ, knock out Joe Joyce, because that would show he literally knocked everyone out. Something that people like Lennox Lewis, he couldn't do that. Admittedly, Lennox Lewis was fighting a much tougher kind of guy, in all fairness. But still, that's what Fury needs to do to be in the conversation of, and when I talk about greatness, I mean, for me, greats is like top 10. You've got to be top 10 all time to be considered great, in my opinion. I don't think you can be a 30th. If you're the 30th best all time, I'm not sure you can call yourself a great. You're good, but great for me is top 10 all time. That's what I call great. Otherwise, if you're going to go down to number 30, innit, who ain't in there at 30? Do you understand? So if we're talking about Tyson Fury being top 10 all time, based on what he's done already, I just don't see it myself. I don't see how a close win over Vlad. I think the Fury now potentially could have knocked Vlad out. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So he's had a close win over Vlad. He then didn't do the rematch for whatever reason. In my book, that goes against him. That's weird. Yeah, the same way I call out Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather technically beat De La Hoya and then ran off and avoided the rematch clause. I hold that against Floyd. Fury signed a rematch clause with Vlad and for whatever reason didn't fulfill it. That's not a good look, so I don't even really count the Vlad situation, to be honest with you. Plus, I don't really rate Vlad like that anyway. Vlad was a bully. Vlad is good at being a big man, if you get what I'm saying. Anytime Vlad fought someone his own size, he came unstuck. Let's be real now. Vlad was very blessed to be in an era that was full of weak men and or small men, or relatively small men. So Vlad was able to strut in there with people like Pulev and Povetkin, and I mean Pulev's soft, we know Pulev's soft. Pulev's a bit soft and Povetkin's a bit small, and do you know what I'm saying, them ones? And he was able to just top the whole division because of his attributes. We found out what happened when Vlad went in there with someone his own size in Fury or bigger, and the bigger man won. And to be honest, even with AJ, there's a reason people say Vlad had his best fight against AJ. That was really one of the only times in Vlad's career he's really you've seen him try and dig deep, if you get what I'm saying. Vlad's been renowned as a guy who kind of rolls over. Anyway, the point is, people will say things like, well, YB, Fury beat Vlad to all time. Listen, Vlad is not all time great. Vlad is not in the top 10. Vlad is a product of his circumstance, i.e. he got lucky, in my opinion. I don't even think Vlad, but in my opinion, if Vlad was from 1990 or 1995, he wouldn't have won a belt. He'd be lucky to have even fought for a belt, to be honest. I think there's a whole bag of man from the 90s, who would have... Vlad wouldn't even have been able to fight for a belt, because he'd have been beat. You know what I'm saying? There's evidence of that anyway. Look at what happened when Vlad fought the 2005 guys. Pretty much anyone, who had any of that old schoolness in them, whooped Vlad. Yeah? Old school meets new school. New schools like AJ and Vlad, they're big and they're strong, but they ain't got the minerals like that. They're athletes, great athletes. Vlad's a great athlete. AJ, a great athlete. I bet you any money AJ can squat 300 pound, 400 pound. Oh yeah, 300 kilos, sorry. Yeah, I bet he can go down there and squat it all the way up. Yeah, all day. I bet he can do it for reps as well. I bet your man AJ can rep out 200 kilo for fun. But guess what? There's probably a whole bag of dudes from the 90s who can't do no squats, but they find themselves in a tricky situation and they're going to fight their way out. AJ and Vlad don't know much about that, unfortunately. So like I said, people putting Fury on a pedestal because of what he did against Vlad, it's relative. Greatness isn't relative. Greatness isn't relative. Greatness is absolute. Yeah? Boom. Are you that or are you not? And unfortunately, Vlad just don't meet up to that criteria. Vlad's a standard dude, in my opinion. He probably top 50, truth be known. I think there's 50 men who would run through Vlad, historically speaking. Just get in there and make it grimy for him. I guess you could argue, well, YB, he'd be able to control them with the jab. Listen, Vlad was great at controlling people like David Haye. Another one, innit? David Haye, another one. A dude like AJ, great at squats, great at bicep curls, but ain't really got this in some. Again, David Haye is a perfect example of that. What happened when David Haye came up against old school? He got dogged. Yeah? Tony Thompson took him for a dogging session. 100%. Tony Thompson put David Haye in his car like it was his girlfriend and took him to the local park for a good old dogging session. Dogged him in. 100%. Took him straight to the park. Yeah? And dogged him. That's what it was. Facts. Big facts. Call me a liar. Did or did not David Haye get put in Tony Thompson's car? And did or did he not drive to a local park and give him a good dogging session? He dogged him. Facts. Big facts. Here another one. Oh, David Haye won. No word of a lie. At the time, we was hearing, oh, David Haye YB. David Haye's like Mike Tyson. Yeah, David Haye's got the same kind of power. I mean, I understand it, because it's kind of like, well, Mike Tyson and David Haye got that look, ain't they? That small, stubby look. Even though David Haye's actually 6'3" or 6'2" or something like that. So it's one of them weird ones. Either way, guess what? No minerals. I mean, to be honest, the Tony Bellend fight really exposed that as well. Truth be known, Tony Bellend should have never been able. I mean, going into that first fight, in fact, even the rematch, David Haye was like 4-1 on. I think it may have even been 5-1 on. Haye was a huge favourite. He was a bigger man and the haymaker and whatever else. He'd go in there and get another great example. Got dogged. No good. So that's what I'm saying. Vlad looked great dogging people like David Haye who ain't got no minerals. Put someone in there with minerals, Vlad going life and death. As we saw, was it Corey Sanders? Someone like that. Them doggy eyes from the, trust me, them early 2000 guys. Them mans was really the last of the real guys. The last of the old school. And we saw what happened there. The last of the old school washed Vlad. Now to be fair to Vitali, I'll give him his props. Vitali might be top 10 all time. He might scrape in at number 10. Or number 9, do you know what I'm saying? Not Vlad. Vlad was a soft one. No good. And guess what? Fury didn't beat Vitali. So I've spent quite a lot of time digesting that, but that wipes out the Vlad talk, in my opinion. Next one. Who have we got? Who was next? Vlad. Wilder. Wilder, on reflection, is a great win for Fury. In the fashion he did so as well. Them last 2 wins. I really respect that, what Fury did with Wilder. But Wilder is not only a one-trick pony, he is a super duper one-trick pony. In as much as I was speaking to someone the other day, and we were saying, imagine how dangerous Wilder would be, yeah, if he only applied that right hand and mixed it up, i.e. different speeds, to the head, to the body, to the chest. Even with that one shot, he could make his life so much easier. Look at all the people Wilder fought. I've never seen him throw a right hand to the body his whole career. Do you understand? It's kind of like, what was he? So again, not only was he one-dimensional, he was one-dimensional times by one-dimensional. He could have taken that right hand and said, you know what? I know the right hand is my bread and my butter, but let me just give some variety within the right hand. Imagine if Wilder's opponents didn't know if he was going for the body, if he was going for the chest, if he was doing a feint. Imagine that. Imagine Wilder stepping in, feinting right hand, and then letting it go. All the different optionality that opens up. Never seen Wilder feint anything. No feints, no level changes, just straight headhunting right hand. And the worst thing is, when Wilder's under pressure, you'll notice that right hand, it ends up just being desperate as well. We talk about speed changes. Well, to be fair, when Wilder's calm, he does, to a low degree, he is able to change the speed of his right hand, or keep it calm at least. That's why you see in the Luis Ortiz fight, the rematch in particular, he was able to just flick that right hand, and it clipped Ortiz. Ortiz was like, looking all gooberish. Yeah? But when Wilder's under pressure, he's not able to flick. He's not able to control that part of it. That's why you see in the Fury fights, Wilder's literally winging it from miles out. 90% of the time. That's no good. That's no good. And that's why he came unstuck. I'm just saying, imagine if Wilder was able to feint. And these things, people talk about feinting, but it's basic, man. You should be able to cover that in a week. Well, you should be able to at least introduce that to your repertoire and work on it going forward indefinitely. What were his trainers doing? It's wild. No feints, no level changes, just pure headhunting, overpowered right hand. Madness. But again, I say that to say, even with that one-trick ponyness, how good is Wilder? It's not like you can say, well, YB, Wilder took out Dillian Whyte. Wilder took out, you know what I'm saying, yeah, he beat Ortiz. Salute for that. But again, how good is Ortiz? What's Ortiz really done himself? Do you understand? What's Ortiz done? It's not really, and that's why I say this era today. Back in the day, back in the 90s, yeah, everyone would squabble it up. It'd be a big mix-up. Everyone, this guy, that, you know what I mean? Everyone mixing it up, and not only that, multiple times. These days, you've got like 6 iterations of people who've done nothing. Like, for example, Wilder has fought Ortiz. No, sorry, Fury's beat Wilder, who beat Ortiz. And it's like, okay, well, Ortiz did nothing. Wilder really beat no one as well. And then you've got Fury. It's kind of like, well, what is that win? What is Fury's win over Wilder based on? It's empty. Now, I'm not knocking it, because to be fair, you can say that for all the guys these days. People don't fight these days. Look at AJ's wins. Who's AJ really beat? Go on. Who's he beat? Where's the lineage as such? Before, you should be able to look back here and say, well, look, this guy beat that guy, who beat that guy, and that means something. It's a bit like, for example, when Mike Tyson beat Spinks. Spinks had beat, who was it? Did Spinks beat Larry Holmes? I'm not sure, but Spinks had beat someone. I think he beat Ali up or something like that. Or even Larry Holmes, for example. When Mike Tyson beat Larry Holmes had beat Ali. Larry Holmes had beat a whole bunch of people. Do you understand? Even though people said Larry Holmes was washed up, there was still the lineage there. And don't forget, people, Larry Holmes was only 37. Fury and AJ beat Vlad at 41. Do you understand? So it's like, there used to be lineage in your wins. These days, you beat a guy who's a big boogeyman, Like Ortiz, oh, he's the boogeyman. And the boogeyman ain't never done nothing. So that's why you have to, in my opinion, compared to the actual greats, you have to put an asterisk against all these new age cats' names. Dillian Whyte, another one. What's he really done? Okay, he went life and death with Joseph Parker. That's really the first bit of lineage, and even then, look at Parker. Parker went in there with AJ and exposed his true colours. He just doesn't... Joseph Parker is typical 2022. Yeah? He just... You know what I mean? He's soft. He went in there with AJ and he was happy to lose on points. He went in there with AJ and followed AJ around the ring. No intention. And the fact is, there's proof that Joseph Parker flapped the AJ fight. Because guess what? Watch how Parker fought Huey Fury. Yeah? If Parker went in there with Huey Fury looking like Mike Tyson. No joke. Straightforward, slipping, sliding, winging huge combinations. So that proves, yeah, that Parker mentally shot it. Because how can you be big bad man against Huey Fury, but then all of a sudden you're jitty and nervous, and your ferocious style, your Mike Tyson style, went flying out the window. That shows you he was nervous, and that shows you he ain't old school. So that's the point. The point is, Dillian Whyte's best wins over Joseph Parker, and the guy we know don't have it. It isn't all that himself. Do you get what I'm saying? Now for these days, for 2022, Joseph Parker's pretty solid, but that's my point. That's why I tell you, these new age guys have to go over and above just to be in a conversation with the actual greats, because of the reasons I've explained. There's no providence. Yeah? These guys are just beating names that have been hyped up by Matchroom or whoever else. But when you take a step back and look at the history, they ain't done nothing. And that's why it's so important now for Fury, in my opinion. Do I think Fury has the ability? There was a time I'd have told you Fury no good and Fury no power and Fury can't do nothing to become a great. Now I'm telling you, he can. At this point, no, if his career ends today, then forget about it. I'm sorry. Not enough done. Fair enough, yeah. Let's say Wilder had beat, you know what I mean, a whole bunch of people, and even then, that's one win. Okay, Fury beat Dillian Whyte as well. What's Dillian done? And that's why at this point, when there's a whole bunch of people who just sit around waiting for paydays, that's why you have to collect more souls. There's two ways to skin a cat: volume, or quality, or quantity. Right now, the quality of the era in the main is weak. So you can't just have 2 or 3 good wins. For example, to be fair, that's why if AJ beats Usyk, then that'll be potentially one of Fury's wins that means something, if you get what I'm saying. Because AJ is the best of the bunch, kind of thing. That would be the top ticket win. If AJ knocks out Usyk or beats Usyk, that'll be a top tier win for Fury. And that's why really he has to stay around. The bottom line, there's no, whatever way you look at it, must stay around. But if Fury does go on, he knocks out AJ, he knocks out Usyk, he knocks out Joe Joyce, then we can talk serious turkey, in my opinion. Because that means he's literally knocking out all the top ones. And even if they are weak, even when Lennox Lewis fought weaker guys, that he weren't knocking them all out. And also, he proved he was more vulnerable as well. Fury may be vulnerable, as are all heavyweights, but he found a way to get up. Now, you can't tell me that Hasim Rahman is more of a puncher than Wilder. So you have to give Fury credit on that basis. Anyway, that's the bottom line. That's the truth about Tyson Fury and this talk about being great. He needs to be serious, and I think he is pretty serious with the game. But he needs to live on planet Earth and not get too gassed. Too many these days, yeah. There's way too many toppers in this game to try and top people off. Oh yeah, Fury, you're the best already. Telling him that don't do no one no good. It doesn't do the truth no good, and it blows his head up, and he starts to believe it. In which case, if he already believes he's done it all, as his man fans will tell him, why would he carry on? The fact of the matter is, though, from someone who's unbiased, he hasn't. there's much to be done. And the worst thing is about it is the fact that it's actually easy, in my opinion. I think Fury can stop Joe Joyce. Too slow, too static. Fury will touch him all over. Fury will stop AJ, in my opinion. Fury can stop Usyk as well. That's the thing. It's kind of like, if you don't do it, it looks even worse, because it's on a plate, in my opinion. There's never been such a gulf in ability than today. I mean, back in the 90s, you had things like genuine questions of Mike Tyson versus Lewis. I'm not talking about the washed up 2002 Mike Tyson. I'm talking about 1996 or 1993. That was a genuine question, wasn't it? Today, there's really no genuine questions. Now, if AJ goes in there and completely literally batters Usyk, that might spur the fire on. Even then, Fury would still be a heavy favourite either way, but you know what I'm saying? Anyway, let's see what happens.